Steph, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about resilience. And we're going to talk about resilience in context with emotional intelligence. So, these two things are very much connected. Now, if you think about emotional intelligence, that ability to be self aware, to empathize with other people, to recognize your surroundings, to have that social intelligence, when we're able to really leverage that emotional intelligence, that awareness of self and others, it really helps to build our resilience so that when challenges happen, we're going to be a little bit more ready to face them. We might even have ideas of how to combat them. And just being able to empathize with other people, we can also, make sure that maybe we're the calming force when there is some adversity or crisis. So our emotional intelligence is directly related to our ability to be resilient in the face of change, difficulty, or challenge. So, what are the benefits of being resilient? Now, obviously, we're talking a little bit more about being resilient in the workplace, but it also affects our personal lives as well. So, resilience is directly connected to well being. And the thing is, when we're able to bounce back a little quicker from life or work challenges, it really helps to reduce anxiety. It helps us to not be dwelling in negativity and all of those negative thoughts, that negative energy, all of that directly affects how we feel. It affects our bodies, it affects our minds. So, that ability to be resilient is going to directly affect how we feel about ourselves. And that's going to obviously directly affect how we show up in the workplace. Now, this is one of my favorite benefits of resilience. When you are resilient, think about all the energy you are reserving to invest in areas of creativity or building or problem solving. When we're not able to be resilient, when we're bogged down in emotions or we're bogged down in negativity or we feel a lack of confidence, all of our energy is going down, 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 and we're spending more time in that space of feeling inept. And sometimes you just have to fake it till you make it. There's been plenty of times I've faced challenges and I really didn't know how I was going to get to the other side. But sometimes I just had that little voice that said, keep going, we're gonna make it no matter what. Now, the great part about resilience in the workplace is that it's really an antidote for burnout. So think about it this way as well. When we're resilient, when we're able to flow with change, we have a certain enthusiasm that we're working with. And so that can prevent us from burning out, right? We burn out when we're high anxiety, high stress, right? So that goes back to that well-being as well. Being resilient can also improve our working relationships. Now, we all have somebody maybe who we work with that says something sometimes that we may take personally, and we may not be able to bounce back from that at times. But when you're able to be a little resilient, when you really have high trust with the people that you're working with, you can kind of let things roll off your back. Now, it doesn't mean it's a recipe or an invitation for disrespect or you should be tolerating any kind of, mistreatment. But when we are more resilient, we are able to take things less personally and we are able to form more trusting relationships with our team members. The other interesting thing about resilience is that when there is crisis or adversity, what it does is it merges leaders, right? When there is people that are being resilient, they will often emerge as leaders in a crisis situation, and they might be the person that we turn to. And it's really important in those moments to observe people that are sort of rising to that place of solution. And you want to be able to say, well, how can I do that, right? How can I reach that level of resilience or being able to really face something head on? Now, I want to address something really important. Avoidance is not to be mistaken for resilience. Sometimes we may avoid emotion, avoid challenges, and we may feel like we're sailing along and it may seem like we're being resilient, but we're really being avoidant. So that's one of the ways that we can build resilience. We need to be honest with ourselves when we're not facing something head on. We need to be straight with ourselves when we are avoiding and not sort of facing our emotions or facing the challenge. And that honesty, that commitment to being honest with ourselves is going to help us build that resilience. Another way to build resilience is self-care, right? And I'm sure you've heard about this in other modules and how self-care is related to emotional intelligence. But think about, how we eat, sleep, how we spend our free time. All of that affects how we show up in the workplace, how we show up in our relationships, and it leaves us better equipped to handle what's ahead of us. The other thing you want to do to build resilience is be able to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses. Knowing yourself is part of that emotional intelligence, part of that self-awareness. So when we're able to say, hey, in these situations, this is where I usually have the most trouble being resilient, then you can identify those and work on that with a coach or with a journal, something like that. You also want to think about your self-talk. Now, what I'm talking about is the little voice in your head. So I want you to stop for a moment and listen to that little voice in your head. Now I'm going to be quiet. Now, for those of you who said to yourself, what is she talking about? I don't have a little voice. That's the one. We are always saying something to ourselves, right? And that self-talk is often goes right on as soon as that adversity happens, right? We may tell ourselves, I can't do this. This is not my strong suit. All of that self-talk goes on high volume. And we've got to be able to shift that self-talk. Now, this is not about just being positive. This literally is about changing the language in your head when you are facing adversity. A simple, I've got this, or I'm in the process of figuring this out. It doesn't feel perfect right now, but I'm not going to stop, right? Do you see how that's not just sugary, right? It's really being honest. I'm in the process of facing a challenge and I'm not going to give up. This doesn't feel good, but I'm going to keep going. So having that mantra or having that self-talk that's going to help move us through those times is really critical. And the other thing you want to do is think about the past. Ask yourself, how have you handled adversity in the past? Confidence is remembered success. So when you think about times when you have handled adversity successfully, you want to be able to draw confidence from those moments. Now, resilience is something that you can build over time. It's something that you can't really plan for, right? Because we don't plan for unexpected changes. We don't plan for crisis, right? Things just happen. Life happens. But it's so important to be able to stop, know who you are, and be able to say, I am in the process of handling something difficult and I am not going to back down. And just by taking that commitment to yourself, you're going to find resilience is something you can build and strengthen over time.